We talked yesterday about the rapper DaBaby, the controversy where he has, of course, made some homophobic comments. He's made some comments dealing with HIV/AIDS. And then you've had folks also criticizing him for his lyrics when it comes to using the N-word and also calling black women bitches and hoes. But what is really going on here? What is the conversation that needs to be had with black men and same gender loving folks? Cleo Manago with the Black Men's Exchange. We were talking and we were tweeting, we were texting about this, and so we said, well, let's actually have the conversation on the air. We've had different people weighing in. You have these different LGBT groups who have sent a letter to him, Cleo, asking to meet with him. You've had folks canceling concerts and festivals. He posted a video apology, then he later deleted that particular apology. What do you make of all of this drama surrounding DaBaby and his comments?
Well, I hope I make sense, Roland, because this is a very complex issue. As you mentioned, before the white gay community and their black followers started attacking DaBaby for his commentary, he had a long line of previous lyrics, and still has them, where he is being anti-black, anti-women, and very, very toxic. And one of my critiques is that, why did we wait for Elton John and Madonna to get mad on the LGBTQ tip to start censoring and silencing this kind of rhetoric? So there's a perspective that I have in terms of black people needing to have the same type of entitlement consciousness to respectful narratives that the white gay community and their black followers are demanding. I also think that we should take a look at what black men are going through, but let me back up a minute and talk about the peculiar context of DaBaby's commentary. DaBaby was giving a concert performing his material, and somehow he got on the topic of oral sex in the parking lot and HIV. And I think it's important to actually deconstruct, why would somebody, it wasn't an HIV concert, it wasn't a homosexual concert, so why did he make that relevant to his rhetoric? Well, that gets back to a word that you used earlier that for me is a controversial word, and that's so-called toxic masculinity. That's an easy one-liner to use, but what's happening with people like DaBaby, whose name is really Jonathan Kirk, is that they have a subjective need to disassociate themselves from behavior that no one has particularly associated them with publicly, but they have a personal need to disassociate. And often when these hyper-masculine rap brothers start bringing up homosexuality, there's something subjective and personal going on with them, where they have the personal need to volunteer to disassociate when nobody's even talking about the topic. So all that to say is that this is a very complex issue, and another issue that I hope is discussed while we're finding a new angle in which to silence a black man, because you know this happened to Kobe Bryant. People tried to attack you with the same kind of alleged allegations, Tracy Morgan and others, and there's been a litany of black men who have been accused of things that I don't think is as simple as the accusation. Getting back to DaBaby, I think that these men, a lot of black men, feel belittled in the society, feel attacked in the society, as everybody knows about the unarmed police brutality and murder. And we rarely create space, and initiated or intentional space in society for black men to talk about their anxieties about being man enough and male in a society that, while it privileges manhood, castrates black men. So all that is part of what's happening here. And I think if we, as I said in one of my commentaries, instead of simply silencing Mr. Kirk or DaBaby, we should use the stage, the popular stage, and ask him, man, why did you say that? What's going on?
Well, and that was one of the questions I had raised yesterday to 3 individuals who had on the show. I said, okay, what's next? They said they've been trying to reach out to him, reach out to his representatives, also with the label as well, have not been successful. But here's the question: who should be approaching him? Who should he be talking to? Who should he be engaged in dialogue with? Because that also impacts the type of conversation you actually have.
Sure. who should be engaging him is black folks. However, we have to do some retroactive work because DaBaby, I'm not sure if you ever heard this dude's lyrics, but he was severely problematic when it comes to black people, black self-conceptual health, and women way before the powerful white gay community decided to launch its power and put this dude's career to sleep momentarily until he does the classic apology while there's no transformation. But getting back to your question, we should be talking to him, but we should have been talking to him and other rappers. And we should be asking them instead of not saying anything and by silence almost encouraging what they're doing, we should ask DaBaby at this particular point, since he's in the spotlight, why did you say that? Why at your concert did you talk about sucking penises in the parking lot, homosexuality and HIV? What was going on? And trust me, if he's given a comfortable environment instead of being punished, but an environment to actually express what he really feels, that will be revelatory and educational for us. Because black men are struggling in the anti-black male society with feeling safe. And a lot of this is compensatory behavior. A lot of this is dysfunctional, I'm a man, damn it. I'm not somebody who's just gonna get killed by the cops, who's just an N-word, who's just irrelevant, who's just gonna be dogged. I'm a man. And notice people like this dude have on what I call black man drag outfit. And what I mean by black man drag outfit is that there's drag shows where there's dudes who are trying to look like women, but there's also drag shows that black men have where they put on a hyper black male outfit, tattoos, chains, going to the gym. This is all compensatory behavior to make up for something that they feel like that they're not. And even the homosexual debasing volunteer passages are based on, see, I'm not like that, I'm a man. So getting back to your question about who should address it should be people who understand what I'm saying, who should create a rational environment for these brothers to actually unpack what's going on with them. I'll give you a short story about what black boys and men are going through that I think leads to this kind of behavioral implosion. Before COVID, I was traveling around the country talking to different black people at mental health conferences. And I would ask the black parents, were they engaging their children about all this police brutality and all these murders of black men in particular that's on the popular stage in the media? And I said, some of them had their children with them and their boys with them. And I said, have you all intentionally brought your child to the side and said, baby, do you know about so-and-so, about Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, the list is long. And what is your perspective of that? And I asked the parents to tell me the truth if they had created safe space for their children to talk about traumatic incidences that are impacting black men. And the majority of the parents had not. And in one incident in St. Paul, Minneapolis, the little boy started crying because they were sitting on trauma and fear based on this phenomena, but no one, including their loving parents, had created space for them to actually talk about how it impacts them. That's relevant, in my opinion, to young men like Jonathan Kirk or DaBaby, who are sitting on years of issues. And there's one more issue that's controversial that may be going on with him in terms of him needing to bring that up and disassociate himself. There's also a problem of child molestation in our community, including male-to-male child molestation in our community that we don't talk about enough, that some young men are sitting on, who grow up self-conscious and confused and mad at same-gender loving people and think they're all after them, or think that these people are doing the same thing to other kids who do the same thing Mr. Kirk is doing because they have some kind of issue. In closing, if a grown man goes to his own conference and volunteers to talk about sex with men in the parking lot and homosexuality, trust me, he has a personal struggle one way or the other with that issue, not unless that's the theme of the concert, and it was not.
Interesting.
Interesting?
But no, I'm saying interesting because what you're speaking to is asking the question that actually goes deeper. The reaction from people is, oh my God, this is shameful, it's wrong, he must apologize or he gets canceled. As opposed to saying, first, why did you say it?
Well,
what's behind that? And that's but part of that though, again, is your point of, well, if you're gonna actually have a conversation to understand what causes a person to say that, as opposed to say, okay, just shut up, it was actually wrong. Robert, Kelly, and Mustafa on my panel as well. I'm going to give each of them an opportunity to ask you a question. I'm going to start with Robert.
Yeah, my question is, so even though he was condemned by the gay community correctly this time, as you eloquently pointed out, he's been anti-black, anti-woman, in his lyrics and in his records before, and yet, he sells a lot of records. I mean, that's the bottom line. He sells a lot of records, and he makes a lot of money for his record label. So, this is all driven by economics. If you make money, if somebody's making money, they're going to keep doing it. So, do you think that there has to be a conversation? I don't know, in the larger community, like, why are you folks buying this? Or in the business community, why are producers supporting him? Why are people supporting his records? Because it's like he wasn't punished, within the marketplace. We can talk about ethics and morality, and we need to, but the bottom line is, if you put money in these guys' pockets, and it works, they're going to keep doing it, and that's what I find disturbing.
Well, this is not really just about money. In short, there are rappers like Lupe Fiasco and KRS, and Lupe Fiasco in particular, who's a conscious rapper who makes a lot of money, whose records sell because he's like Prince. He uses the internet to sell his products. But people like Lupe Fiasco do not get the kind of exposure that Lil Wayne, who they bring up every time we need a social commentary about politics, they go dig him up, which makes no sense. They should be calling Roland Martin or me or somebody else who understands the social behavioral issues and political issues. They call him. My point is that people like DaBaby are encouraged and highlighted and profiled because they are anti-black and detrimental to the psyche of black people. There are other artists who are talented who don't get the same level of play. So this is not just about money. This is about, in my opinion, white supremacy bias on who they would like to see us falling so we can stay disoriented and in conflict. The reason why we didn't step up, and we don't step up when people like Jonathan Kirk or DaBaby says anti-black stuff, is because black people, because of this litany of anti-black messaging, which has become a normal part of the United States culture, we have been put in a trance. We have been putting in what I call a white supremacy trauma trance, where we're so busy questioning our worth or so busily internalizing anti-black norms because we are not sure of our value, particularly among black men, who have been publicly devalued over and over in the job market and all over the place. I mean, black men are the first to drop out of college because the curriculum is assaulting. So that's why I said it was complex when Roland first asked, because our issues preceded DaBaby. The reason we're talking about DaBaby now, because a very powerful community who doesn't care about black issues but cares about gay issues ran in and said, oh no, we're going to silence you because they have the power to do it. But those same people, black followers and people inside of the white gay paradigm, are not critiquing this dude who's being anti-black until he does something gay, which is a white machine.
Question from Mustafa. Mustafa?
Dr. Cleo, it's good to see you.
You too, man.
The way that I'm looking at this, and I hope you can unpack this for us, it is pain, trauma, and socialization. Because we are socialized to see ourselves as less. And then we will unpack each component inside of our community. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate. And I spoke to it a moment ago, but it's relevant to your question. If you listen to this dude's lyrics, they're atrocious. They're toxic. They're vulgar. They're genocidal to black people and to black mental health. And you can go outside in any particularly black community or mixed community and hear this dude's music blasting in the, bumping in people's cars. And it is socialization. But I don't want us to miss that Black people are in a trance and that Black people are dealing with social, psychic factors and stressors that must be addressed in an explicit way. Even when it comes to, and this might sound tangential, but it's relevant to the Black state of mind, even when it comes to this COVID-19 issue, 52% of Black folks apparently are not going to get the vaccine. Well, something's going on with Black people. And if we don't address what's going on with Black people in terms of what the resistance is about and ask questions instead of doing this, you're bad, people just shut down. So Black folks have got to have meaningful, rational, strategic conversations about internalized white supremacy, anti-Black norms, so we can have the entitlement consciousness not to wait for Elton John and Madonna and white gays to put down Black men, which has racism in it and opportunism in it, but where we can hear these rap records right now and say, wait a minute, what's up? I got children. I got babies being raised. I got to walk through the streets and hear this. I think we need to address this, but you got to love Black people unconditionally to do that kind of calling people to be accountable. We didn't do that when Obama was president. We were the only ones who didn't call to make him accountable. The Latinos did, and the gays certainly did. But we were someplace else doing other things instead of thinking clearly and coming out of that trance and holding people accountable. We have to hold the rap community accountable. Again, though, it's problematic that DaBaby did not become an issue until the gay machine said, oh no.
And that was actually a point that I read yesterday. Jasmine Koenig wrote a column on that, and actually we do discuss it on yesterday. Kelly, your question for Cleo. Last question.
Sure. So obviously, I don't have the lens of a black man on this situation, but what I do see is the fact that from my perspective, it does feel as though Black men, specifically Black celebrities, have more grace when it comes to problematic statements and problematic actions with the community as opposed to Black women. When it comes to cancel culture, it feels as though when it comes to Black men doing things such as this, there is more of a counsel culture. Like right now, we're talking about counseling DaBaby into seeing the other side of this issue and really coming to senses with his homophobia. However, we have female celebrities who have done less, but have been canceled almost indefinitely, such as Macy Gray, Azalea Banks, Chrisette Michelle, and there are others. So I guess if you could speak on how this needs to be a universal solution in terms of counseling our Black celebrities, in terms of counseling our Black people into these issues and making sure that there's a more holistic, less Eurocentric and phobic approach to such things. If you could give your comments on that, hopefully I'm making sense in this regard.
Well, let's be clear, sister. There is no counsel culture for Black men. That's not true. There is no counsel culture. I wish that was true, but that's not true. There is no counsel culture or no critical thinking encouragement culture around Black issues as a systemic norm in the United States of America. And I don't want to bring women into this yet because it will distract from the point of what's happening right now, which is Black male behavior. And it's easier, for example, to simply call Mr. Kirk or DaBaby homophobic. However, it's not that simple. What's going on with people like Kirk is, am I man enough ophobia? Are you going to see me as a man ophobia? And a lot of Black men, in some ways, in terms of its performance, is quite dysfunctional. But that's a lot of what's happening with Black men. And the cancel culture for Black people, regardless of gender, is quite high. I want to reiterate, there is no counsel for Black men. When the white gay community, for example, steps up, and that's who put this man's name in the lights right now, they are the ones who do the canceling of black men, just like the brother that Mariah Carey used to be, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon got canceled by white Jews because they were offended by what he said. We need to develop the entitlement. See, white people have what I call entitlement consciousness generally. They feel entitled. They don't play that. You don't mess with them. But we second guess that if we're entitled to voting, if we're entitled to not get killed by a virus, we are in a state of questioning. And frankly, people like DaBaby and the perpetual highlighting of this kind of toxic behavior reinforces the trance and the disorientation among black people. And we need to understand this and address this. But nobody's having a council culture. If we had a council culture and really ask each other why we do what we do, in particular people like DaBaby, why did you do that? Instead of just shutting them down so he can give you the classic apology that makes the gay community feel like, okay, we controlled him, but nothing changes. I mean, we've been dealing with black men who have said so-called homophobic things for the longest, and it has not deceased because we're not addressing the baseline issues. And when we start doing that, we'll have black men and black people who are more awake, who are more critically thoughtful, who are concerned about how black people look, who are really willing to not call black women bitches and hoes and each other the N-word, when we as a collective say, we're not having it, we're not tolerating it. Like the white gays said, we're not gonna let you do something that's so-called homophobic. We have to have that entitlement consciousness too. And right now we don't have it. I think that shows like Roland Martin's show can help engage us and help impose that kind of consideration among black people. But on a general basis, we're just going along with the okie doke, not because we're deficient, not because something is wrong with us, but we are acculturated from a media level to an educational level to second guess our worth. And we're so busy in a second guessing trance that we don't come up for air and say, no, you're not going to do that. Or again, why did you do that? What's behind that behavior so we can understand that and address the factors leading to it so we can do some kind of intervention, as opposed to just having white gays and their black followers shut another brother down. That's kind of problematic. There's some racism in there that looks like a homophobia rescue story, but there's some opportunism on shutting black men down who are already shut down on a macro level inside of this alleged homophobia concern. And I'll close with this. The white gay community and their black followers are not equipped to talk to black people or address black people in ways that are helpful to us, that even considers the issues that I'm raising. It's all about calling the next person homophobic with no context. And I consider Mr. Kirk castration-ophobic. I'm not sure I'm a man-ophobic. I'm going to be a hyper-masculine man and make up for that insecurity by stepping on stage with muscles and a tattoo and arbitrarily talk about homosexuals to make sure people know that I'm not like that because I'm a man. And I'm a man concerned, which is not based on black people just being irrational. Black men have a reason to be concerned about how they're seen. Even the police brutality, for example, and the murders of black male bodies on the street is a reason for black men to be hyper-masculine. And like I said in my previous comments, when I go to these mental health conferences and talk to these parents about if indeed they're engaging their children about the abuse of black people in public, majority of them aren't. And some of those boys started crying in the audience because nobody had ever given them permission to even consider how these issues hurt them. And Mr. Kirk used to be a baby boy. And we're all former children. And black people have work to do.
All right. Cleo Manago, we surely appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the invitation. Good to see you, Ro.
Likewise.
Back to that Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment.
Yo, this is Ziggy Marley. Catch my live performance on Seek.
You're Bon Jovi and you're watching us on Seek. What's going on? This Quavo Huncho, but right now you in the Huncho's world.
Please let the music play.
Of course, a couple of the products from the folks at Seek, they have their, of course, their great headsets. They're a 360-degree audio sound. You can see the, this is, of course, the box right here. You can get the headphones in black and gold. Mustafa, that's a great color, of course. Us alphas, we love that. And they also have the headset in all gold. And so, again, you can get this. This is a black-owned company. Mary Spio is the founder of the product. They also have, of course, their virtual headset. And so, let me grab that right here. This is their VR headset where you can actually place your phone inside of the headset, and you can check out their virtual reality content at seek.com. Use the promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21. The proceeds of what you purchase comes back to support Roland Martin Unfiltered. Y'all know what we do on this show. We support black-owned businesses, and that's what we are about. So go to seek.com, use the promo code RMVIP21.